Questions being asked is whether the justices will issue a wide or a narrow ruling. What does that even mean?
On this disqualification issue? Well, I mean, there are a variety of ways that they could dispose of this case. One would just be, for instance, a narrow ruling might just address the fact that the Colorado decision was on the primary rather than on the general. Might just address Colorado rather than issuing a ruling that would apply to all of the states. I think the notion of like a narrow ruling that would potentially, and I know that there are people making this argument, but that would leave some of this back to the states. I don't think that would be good for the country. I don't think it's good for there to be this uncertainty that's going to be playing out over months. That's my own personal view. So I would be surprised if the Supreme Court kind of let something play out that was so narrow that it allowed all of these political actors in all of the states to sort of fill the gaps. But that's what folks are talking about.
Carol, let's move on to the classified documents case down in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. Trump's lawyers are expected to try to get the judge to throw this whole case out. Now, this judge, Aileen Cannon, has shown, I don't know what the best way to say it, favoritism. In the past, she has gone out of her way to be, at the very least, deferential to Trump and his team.
Yes, I would just remind your great viewers who probably remember because you've drilled it into them a few times that she became infamous because she ruled in a way that no judge has ever ruled before that Donald Trump should have access to these classified records and the government should not be able to look at them while they were in the middle of a live criminal investigation to try to secure the possible compromise of national security records. Remember, the government was freaking out that some of this material had leaked, that some of its operatives could have been compromised, that intelligence about Iran and China and how we learn about nuclear programs could be in the hands of other foreign adversaries. I mean, they were sweating it. And this judge said, you know what? You guys can't touch that stuff anymore. Well, an appellate court swooped in and said, okay, there's no law under the sun in which that's appropriate. So she looked foolish, but she also looked like she was leaning hard towards Trump. And everybody looked at her like, well, what's going to happen next? And what's happened next is that she's leaned over to repeatedly find ways to delay this case and put off the opposite of Judge Chutkan, by the way, in January 6th investigation, ways to put off the potential future litigation over motions and the ultimate trial.
All right, let's go to Fulton County, Georgia. Donald Trump's lawyers are now going after Fani Willis, not because of the personal relationship she has with someone on her team, but now this is about a speech she gave last month, something she said about race. Fill us in. What do you think?
So the DA gave a speech over the Martin Luther King weekend. It was her first response to the allegations about her being in this relationship and potential financial interest in the prosecution. And she essentially said that her critics were attacking her because of race. And I will say I was not a fan of this speech. I actually wrote about it, and I was quite critical of it. I thought it was evasive, and I thought it was, frankly, beneath a prosecutor or a public official. Who's
unnecessary,
elected.
At the very least.
Very unnecessary and actually counterproductive. However, the argument that Trump's lawyers have made is that the speech was so incendiary and was extrajudicial, meaning it was outside of the courtroom, that was so prejudicial that she should be disqualified for injecting race into the case and tainting all the defendants and defense counsel. I think that's a very ambitious argument. I don't expect it to get much traction because I was not a fan of the speech, but it was careful enough, I thought, to avoid that sort of red line. But that's what's going on here, and that's the issue that's going to be in front of the judge.
But in the court of public opinion, like, no bueno. Things are not working out in Fani Willis's world. Does one wonder why make this speech? Why add insult to injury? Why bring attention to yourself right now?
Well, now what is at risk for Fani Willis and for the state of Georgia and for the elections at large is that Fani Willis will become the thing that jurors are focused on, that the public is focused on, as opposed to the case that she's bringing. So it's not just a distraction, but it is potentially a way, as Trump's lawyers are arguing now, to undo the prosecution. Now, again, not sure they're going to be successful with that. His lawyers are doing, in a lot of these cases, they're throwing, what's the S word, spaghetti against the wall.
There you go. There you go.
But she is, potentially sabotaging her own case here. And she's going to have to make a decision about whether she can ride this out and continue to prosecute and not have a problem with that prosecution, or if she is so much getting in the way of this case that the case is more important than her role in it.
You wrote a column today for New York Magazine that was really interesting because it's important, but it's like an abstract that what people don't think about yet. What it would actually look like If Donald Trump were convicted and sentenced to prison, lay it out for us. Because let me tell you, Carol would have to cover every single minute of it. Just so you know, this would be her new life. She'd know
Thanks
every
a lot.
prison guard.
So we spent several months actually working on this piece to try to really explore the whole full spectrum of options that would be available and where they would end up. And where we landed was, look, if Trump stands trial in Washington, I fully expect him to be convicted for a variety of reasons.
Hold. Do you think he will stand trial in Washington? Because it's noteworthy that you said if he does.
It's going to be up to look, he can stand trial in Washington. There's enough time. He should, in my estimation. The public wants to. Whether he will is going to be up to the Supreme Court.
Do you believe he will?
Yes, I do. Sitting here right now, I do, actually, because I think the D.C. Circuit's opinion was surprisingly strong to me. I was expecting them to reach the result that they did, but it was surprisingly strong. I think the Supreme Court would be well within its rights to deny cert and let that decision stand. And that the trial could go forward. But I don't know.
Okay, Carol.
I was just going to say I agree, not as a prosecutor, but as a journalist who's written about court filings. I thought the circuit would land where it did. I had no idea how well they would craft it to say, Supreme Court, we got this. You know, they gave a lot of options for the court to say, it's okay, this is resolved. You're done. So I'm with you. I don't usually put down any money on bets that are speculative, but I think the chance of a trial this year is increased.
Wow.
And the Supreme Court loves to be able to say this is a political issue.
We're out.
And so the Circuit Court has now given them, as Carol points out, just given them this incredible off-ramp to do.
The Supreme Court has more than enough on their plate right now. Carol said it before. They get their track shoes on, their sweatpants. They're like, we don't need to worry about this. Thank you all for starting us off this evening. Great.